Very rare diamond. Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls. Wearing this.
Alright.
Wearing only this. The last thing I need is another picture of me looking like a porcelain doll. As a paying customer, I expect to get what I want. Look at my boobies, Jack. Look at...
It makes me laugh every time. Every time, without fail. That's going to make me laugh. So, it's Friday. And I was all day just in a shitty mood. I'm like, you know what? We're going to talk about shit about knives that pissed me off. Which is why you guys had a 2-minute lead in, because there's a lot of fucked up shit about knives. Most of all, since Will is here, the color choices that people use, because this knife doesn't exist. See that? See that? Bang. It even has parts of it that don't exist on the blade. This thing is hideous. Hideous! Thanks, Will. Thanks. Thanks for that. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with knives that really pisses me off. And one of them was I had a guy a guy that works construction, bring me a Benchmade 940. And it's a newer one. And I was just like, how the fuck are people still buying these knives? Like, how the fuck are people still buying Benchmade shit at this point? This kid had a 940 that he paid a lot of money for. And I'm like, this is fucking horrible. Like pivot, like you tighten it down, and like if by the time you got rid of it, had so much blade play, I'm like, who the fuck still buys these knives and then defends the company? So there's that. And I know you guys probably saw the shit that's going on with Steven Crowder, and then there's other stuff that's just, I'm just gonna let you guys, we're just gonna talk about shit that pisses me off. First and foremost, I had someone that made a complaint on a comment, and it got flagged, and I responded to their comment and told them, like, look, there's a reason for this. And then went to Facebook and some other social media and was bashing about the way I run the channel. Look, if you guys want to talk about politics, Steven Crowder, Daily Wire, Fox News, The Quartering, Westernly, the Midwesternly, any of those websites, any of those fucking channels are dedicated to politics. But I don't know why people just think that I give two shits about their political thoughts on a knife channel. So, there's a reason that I don't allow politics in the comments section. It's just, I'm just throwing it out there because, like, I'm pretty pissed about this. This really set me off. There's a reason. Do you see how much fighting and divisiveness is in culture today? It's about politics. You fucking think I want that on my channel? No, I don't. There's a reason I don't let you guys talk about it. Jesus. Like, to go and complain. I'm like, bro, you're the kind of kid that would go and tell the teacher that somebody was doing something while they were outside of the room. Like, here's the thing, I don't even know this person. It's bullshit. You censored it. Like, I wanted to talk about this. I'm like, go find a politics channel to talk about it on. I just choose not to have it here. Oh. So, at any rate, what is everyone carrying? I have something interesting. You probably already know what it is because you probably... No, you probably didn't. There's more people here now than watched today's lunchtime video. Or today's afternoon video. So, I did a video that I thought was going to go so well. I did a Balisong video. I'm like, how can I go wrong with a Balisong video? They're so popular. I did a Bally video. And it absolutely was the worst video performing that I've had happen in a very long time. I was like, where are all the fucking Bally guys? But this is, if you were to go and watch the video I put up today at 4 p.m., this was my EDC for the day. And will be for a while. Actually, it has been for almost a week. I just haven't talked about it because the video went up today. well, this is part of my EDC. It's been in my pocket. I'm not going to say that this is the only thing I've carried this week. But just like we did with that EXW, or not, I'm not sorry, not the EXW, the exogravity knife. I'm going to see what it's like to carry a Balisong as the primary knife I'm carrying for small stuff. So what we got here? We got Spyderco Yojimbo S90V today. Bird Knives Harrier 2 right now. I have not seen one of those. I did mess around with this today. This is the other knife that Will got me. This is the Double Agent 1. This is the Hawkbill Karambit style. I had one of these that was the drop point. I always talk about like how much I love that knife and why'd I get rid of it and all it, like, why would I get rid of that? And it's a knife that I was like, I wish I had it. I wish I'd never gotten rid of it. And I was like, and then Will sent me this and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It wasn't a very good knife. So you got here Sativian, ST103. That's a good knife. The Sativian knives are good. Opnel 12. That's not a bad knife either. You guys are going to see a video about the Rat 1 that's going to piss people off. I don't like that knife. What's up, peephole? It just looks like the double rake. It's not just that. Getting it back in the sheath. Now I remember like the problems I had with the sheath. Lining it up with the sheath because it's really thin. It's not just that. It's really thin. You would think it's like pressed. You know what? This is like the blade stock. So when we watch Cutlery Corner Network, and I'm talking about those knives, that's about the blade stock. Like those buoys that they're always shooting from the weird angle, and I'm like, that is a very, very thin blade stock. Riat Exo hand flamed. Nice. See, that's a knife that I would not shy away from flame coloring the entire knife. But I've seen people do flame coloring on the lock bars on their, or the lock scales in Timascus. And when you heat up titanium like that, nitrogen, you get nitrogen embrittlement and stuff because it absorbs oxygen and nitrogen and stuff like that through, because it's supposed to be heated in a vacuum, technically, if you really want to know how to do it. That's why I don't like Timascus lock scales. Show scale's fine. I think that's still too much. I find it tacky. So carrying the small Nkosi, carried the ZTO 0095. Carrying the small Nkosi and the wee hyphen. I don't remember if I've seen the hyphen. I know I've seen the kite fin, I believe. Tough Knives Mini Prospect. But no, what I was saying is trying to get this back in the sheath, it never goes back in the sheath the way you want it. You're like, I get it in the sheath, and then it catches, and you're like, fucking around with it. Alice, I have not done the GoFundMe yet. I will. I'm going to try and get it set up. Polly from Purple Heart Barbecue might stop by. I sent him an invite. He wanted like a 20-minute spot. I think he wants to talk to you guys about stuff that he's doing on his channel. So, but no, I got that kid brought over that S90. He brought over that S90V Benchmade 940, and I was like, I really don't want to sharpen tonight. I was like, if you drop it off, I might be able to do it this weekend. We'll see how my shoulder feels. And he goes, I'm gonna be out of town. He's like, I'll just take it up to this place and he told me the name of the place. And I was like, don't do that. They're gonna put it on a belt grinder, and I've had to fix so many knives from them. And I was like, it's an expensive knife. Just bring it over. And so I sharpened it for him. And the whole time I'm like, how the fuck does Benchmade get away with this? Like, and it's not how does Benchmade get away with it? How do we continue to let Benchmade get away with it? Those knives are like almost how much is a Benchmade 940 carbon fiber S90V? How much are those right now? Somebody tell me. I don't have my keyboard out here, and I don't have my mouse. So I'm trying not to do a lot of like searching. So somebody can let me know. I mean, it's ridiculous how much they are right now. And the one that I'm like, this is not even as good as the Benchmades I saw a couple years ago. And I do like the people at Benchmade. The people I've talked to at Benchmade and the people I met at Blade Show West and the people I talked to, they're always great people. But, you know, I'm sure some of the people at taking my slippers off. Probably $200, $315 this kid paid for this knife. And I'm like, it's all jacked up. The grind was fucked up. Like at the tip, the whole grind, like the grind of the blade, I'm like, that's misground. I was like, fuck. The action was so goddamn stiff. I'm like, did you tighten the pivot down on this? He goes, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, take a screwdriver. He goes, nah. Say I don't have a screwdriver that fits that. I'm like, great. I'm like, so I fixed the tension on the pivot and got it to where the action wasn't like it was literally like a two-hand opener. And he was messing with mine. He was like, why is yours so smooth? And I was like, because it's not a piece of shit like this one. $315. That kid paid $315 for that knife. Actually, I think he said he paid less for that. I do remember him saying he didn't pay that for it, but still, $315. I'm like, how do we? It's not that the company. It's because we let them do that to us. We've let all the companies do that to us. And people are like, well, no, that's just the price of making knives. I'm like, bullshit. I have a really, really good petrified fish $58 knife over there that I'd put up against any Benchmade any day. Is it in S90V steel? No. But it's not that hard to sharpen it. I just found out today there are some people in the community calling me a bigot and telling people not to do business with me. I found it to be very hurtful. Alice, people suck. I'm not gonna lie. Every once in a while, I let stuff get under my skin, but you can't. There's just gonna be people are just gonna say shitty things. We all know better. We all know better. Don't worry about it. The people that matter are the people that like you. So don't worry about it. So I say, just people in general suck. They do. I like everyone here. I like everybody that watches my videos and stuff. I had a guest, and they had to cancel. We will try to revisit that. Yeah, the S90. S90 is $315. Yeah, now, I have an S30V blade for mine. I got some weird. Hang on. Just all of a sudden, I got some weird buzz in just one. Suck it. Love to you and your friend. Thank you very much, Rocky. Oh, I didn't give you guys free bell. I'll give you guys some free. We'll do. The free bells are broken. And then we'll just do a little bit of echo bells. It's stupid to have to watch ads. Well, it's not ADDS ads. Are you doing math? I agree. It's stupid that you have to watch math to view live feeds. As far as the advertisements, bro, that's how they pay. That's how I get paid, bro. Come on now. CIA bugged the live feed. Wouldn't surprise me. I'm PPL, I think. Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying. People just suck. People just talk shit. They don't even know you. It's funny that the people that don't know you at all are the ones that talk the most shit about you. So I sent David and our friend Sam a video that I found on YouTube, and it was a guy doing a dugout. He did a dugout shelter, and I was like, how cool would it be if we did that? Me, Sam, David, and then we built one, and we let people like rent it out to do bushcraft videos, and then we would take a trip once a year, all three of us, and go up there. Sam is bushcraft bodybuilder. David's a hunter, and I could do all the knife stuff. And basically what we could do is we do a video of us building the dugout structure, it's like a cabin in the dirt. And then we rent that out. And then 1 week a year, we would go up and I would do all the knife stuff. Like I'd talk about like what knives are great for what purposes out in the bush, and sharpening axes, and what hatchets and saws and stuff would be good. David could hunt whatever we're going to eat. And Sam could do videos about gathering like the stuff. And we would all do it like on our channels. And it would just be like segments of us doing the stuff. And then we just do like a live feed of us sitting down to cook whatever it was that we were going to do. I think it would be cool. I just know it would be a ton of fucking work. There's an old Bill Hicks. He talked about how people sucked. Yeah. Bill Hicks, like I definitely am channeling some Bill Hicks today. So yeah, I was looking at stuff and I was like, there's just so many things that just piss me off about knife companies and knives in general that we just accept. And we're like, oh, it's just the way it is. Like the whole thing with like the out the fronts. Well, every out the front has blade play. I talked about it in a video, except for the deadlock. And then I'm like, but why do we accept that? Why don't we just tell them like, we're not gonna buy your shit until you can meet the standard that another company has set? Everybody's like, oh, you can't do it. And I was like, well, obviously you can. And then I still get on it about like, why the fuck do American knives have to cost so much? I don't say that American knives should be the same price as Chinese knives. I don't think they should. I do understand that it costs more for labor and stuff here. I'm like, why do we have to tolerate that? It's just ridiculous. The stuff that goes, like I said, Benchmade 940. A kid brought me a fairly new one. And he works construction and he needs a sharp knife. And so I sharpened his knife for him and it was horrible. And I'm like, this knife is not worth what he paid for it. It's not. I was like, it's just reached a point where I'm like, I'm so fed up with it. And I know Jared put up a video today about American knife companies. I don't know what it was about, but I would imagine it's the same thing I'm talking about. Like, you keep raising the price, but you're not offering us anything. I mean, Spyderco kind of is like the whole thing with Big Brown Bear, and I'm so happy for Sean. Like he's got some stuff going on, and then Alex Steingraber is getting a design released with Spyderco, I guess, his folding knife, the Lamina. I'm happy for him, but the fact is, like, I probably won't buy either one of them because I'm fed up with Spyderco and Benchmade and a few other companies being like, well, we can just do whatever we want. They'll still buy it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Who's worse, the 940 or the Sumo? Well, when you look at $315, if you look at $315 for the knife I looked at today, I think it's about a fucking tie. If you want to know the truth, that Gerber is just garbage. But if you're going to hand me something that's $300 and something and expect me just to buy it because it's Benchmade, eventually there's going to be a reckoning. There has to be. It's like I've said it so many times, like you have to adapt to your environment. You become extinct. And it's the Toys R Us thing. Toys R Us refused to, oh, hey, I got a new member. New members get bells. New members get bells. Let me see here. New paying member. I just posted up so OGJZ61. Jesus. I just posted up a link to the Guilded server for members only. You will have access to that now. You can follow it. You enter the Guilded server. Make sure your name here matches your name there. It has to be the same, because if I can't verify the paying members, then I won't allow you in, but I will grant you access now. So what's my go-to brand? I will tell you, I don't like all their models. But I mean, even still, this is a really good knife. I don't think I've had a Benchmade that was done badly. I've had Benchmades that had screwed up edge grinds. I can fix that. Like, that's sharpening. But as far as overall quality of the knife, I don't think I've had a bad Cold Steel, I mean. I've had numerous bad Benchmades. I've had numerous bad Spydercos. I know that Cold Steel's not an American brand anymore, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just tired of people telling me, like, well, don't buy Chinese knives. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to buy fucking overpriced garbage American knives? I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. As a matter of fact, I'm not buying much. The stuff you all see on the channel is always stuff that comes in. And it just gets frustrating. It gets frustrating as someone that loves this country and wants so much for this country. A veteran. You know, I'm retired. I'm medically retired. I gave enough in my military career that, like, I'm physically disabled at this point. And I'm supposed to just, well, you're supposed to buy American. I'm like, well, I'm going to follow the quality. If you're going to hand me a knife and tell me, like, well, this is an American-made knife, and I'm like, well, how much is it? And they're like, well, it's $300. I'm like, I got a $70 knife on my counter that's way better. Like, I don't understand that thought process. So, do I want a good chuckle? I could use a good chuckle. It's been a garbage day. Now, I won't lie, I bought a special edition Sea Snake after the last stream. It's a good knife. Here's the thing, like, I absolutely shouldn't say this because I definitely make more money when you buy the expensive ones. But that knife was never meant to be more than $50. I wanted this knife to be well under $100. I definitely did. Did you see Spartan is working with K-Bar to make a MagnaCut K-Bar? Ooh. Said they couldn't do the super steel version, so Spartan stepped in to help. I did not see that. I will say, K-Bar does make good stuff. K-Bar does make good stuff. The K-Bar, what was it? The K-Bar Mule? That's a good knife. It's a good knife. It's not a great knife, but I mean, it's a good knife for the price. I had to diversify from Spyderco because it almost always got the pick. Wait. I had to diversify from Spyderco because it almost always gets the pick. I've have most of the line at one point. Yep, I saw that. I don't know if autocorrect wasn't your friend, but I definitely didn't understand most of that. Yoko, just here to say hello before bed. Well, you have a good evening. The regular Sea Snake is a fantastic knife. Not trying to kiss ass. No, that's not. That's like I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how these came out and how they turned out and everything. But yeah, it's just like it's not even the company's faults, really. It's the fanboys that come to the defense, and it's us that allow these companies to get over on us and do stuff. I have the same problem with, as much as I love them, Reat and We Knife Company and some of those companies. Their knives are now the $400 price point. I'm like, guys, why? If I want a $400 knife, I'll buy an American knife. I don't want a $400 knife. The whole allure, well, I mean, Reat kind of has been. Like my Reat Horizon D was a $400 knife, but some of their knives are like $600-700 now. And then you have the other one. You have guys like it's an okay knife. I got to handle one of those brand, what is it, James Brand knives, and I'm like, I looked at them price wise. I looked at them price wise compared to the knives. I talked about this with Jared. I looked at them price wise comparative to other Reate knives, and I'm like, that's just so plain. Why is it so much? The same thing with the Sleesh Bowie that Nick Shabazz loves. The only reason those ever got sold was because Nick touted its merits, and I'm like, Nick, you sold every one of those knives. Like the only reason they ever sold is because you put them on your channel. And so like I'm like, but those knives aren't that good. You know? Like why is that Reate that is just because it's got that dude's name on it any better? It's not. And I got to handle one. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's not that good. It's really just a very plain, it's a good knife, but it's not worth what they're charging for it. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating. And like I said, it's not just the American companies, it's some of the Chinese companies too. Like seeing who has the special edition sea snakes, I think you have to buy them directly at Artisan. Blade HQ or Knife Center may have them, but I think the curse of the EDC YouTuber. JB Knife Collector, that was wonderful, aggressive pricing. They're going to sell a ton of them. I don't know which we're talking about. What are we talking about here? Yeah, the new Microtechs. Now, I thought, for some reason, I thought that Best Tech was doing them for them. Apparently, it's not. Apparently, it's Reich. Which, I mean, that's another good choice, solid choice. I have a SOCOM Bravo that's coming in for review. I have not gotten to see one yet. It's a good looking knife. I like seeing them. I like the way they look. I mean, I can't wait to see it. Jesus. So yeah. I haven't shipped it out yet. So if you guys won, or if you have knives that have been here for sharpening and review, I still have Nick Shabazz's fucking knife up here, the Ritual. If you have knives that are here for sharpening, they're done. I just have not gotten a chance to get out and do it. I had so much editing and stuff to do, and I was waiting on one more person to contact me with their address stuff. And then a guy that I sharpened some knives for, I finally got him done, and because my shoulder was feeling okay. And then he was like, well, don't send them to the address I gave you because I've moved. And I'm like, fuck. So he sent me the address. I was waiting on all that because I don't want to make multiple trips to the post office. So yeah, that's a lot of it right there. I just like, it was kind of a combination of a bunch of stuff. Like I was watching, I watched somebody's review of a knife on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree. Like this knife is not that good. And then I got to looking at some of the knives that, some of the stuff that is getting done, and I'm like, I can't believe we let these companies do this. I'm going to tell you right now, millet, I have never gotten a good millet knife. I never have. They've always been all screwed up. Grinder's wrong, or it's not centered, and it's just always bad. But there was 30 minutes of me screaming and hollering. So the Annex is my favorite. I like the Annex. I had one here for a while that was the TKI the Tactical Knife Invitational Microtech Special Edition. Had the coin, it had a special piece, and it was beautiful. It was my buddy Tino's, and then he sold it. What's sad? G-Ball Vision! Is this G-Ball at the in-laws? Good night, Yoko. I was talking with my sister-in-law in Japan. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law were talking with my wife, and then my sister-in-law was on there. They're FaceTiming. So, um, but like I was saying, I can't. Oh, what you said about Millet? Yeah, yeah. The thing about Millet, and like I wanted to try and get, I wanted to try and get a knife done with Millet, and the runaround that they gave me was just ridiculous. I will say, as much I was talking about React, like this was $400. 410 is what I paid for it when it first came out. And I'm not gonna lie, absolutely the best $400 I've ever spent. I don't know how many times I've said it in videos. This still is the best production knife I have ever purchased. This is the best overall knife, hands down, production knife I have ever purchased. Is my React Horizon D carbon fiber and titanium. This thing is insanely good. It is nuts how good this thing is. And I've never had any issues with it. I carry it. I still carry it really regularly. Heat treat on the M390 is amazing. It's not one of those ones, but like we said, like Shane Gable said, companies are skimping on heat treat, and it's not like he said. Like Shane Gables was saying, like over at Edgy American, he was saying like, how much more does it cost to go up to that extra Rockwell? Well, the thing about heat treat is heat treat. It really doesn't cost any different. Companies are just being lazy because it's hard to grind. I'm not gonna lie. There is you do reach a point, like 64 Rockwell. You can't send M390 24 or 20 CV 204P off to Larkin to get it double disc ground at 64 Rockwell. 64 to 65, which is what I ran my shit at. That is a couple points too high. It burns up their equipment, it burns up the blades, you get too much heat. But you can do it at 61 to 62, 63, 61 to 62. I can't remember what React ran these at, but that's the factory heat treat is usually on M390. If you're getting good M390, you're looking at about 61 to 62 is a really good one. This is in that range. When I was doing custom knives, I was doing them at 64, 65-ish on it. So this is the React Horizon D, the original Horizon D in carbon fiber and titanium. And just absolutely an awesome, amazing knife. But I don't know what companies are running their stuff at these days. And it just seems like it's low. And then you have people coming out, M3 Tactical Tech, no steel should be run over 60. You're an idiot. Like he actually came out and said that. Like that's something he said. No steel should ever be run anything. There's no steel that should be run above 60. It's like, motherfucker, I did S125V at 67. It was a 67 or higher. And I know this because when I got done with heat treat and temper, I could score glass with it. It's got to be at least 67 to score glass. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I do know that, yeah, Jeffrey, I do know that I do know that the cost of things have gone up and stuff. But yeah, I've got it. Where's mine? Where is mine? There it is. 67. 67 Rockwell on us, and it's nuts. It is nuts how good this is. So I'm like, who told you that shit? What's his name? Over at fucking M3 Tactic. I can't think of his name, but he's an idiot. And he lost his fucking deal with Grifter's gonna grift. Yeah, that was my big thing. And then there's the big thing of like, one of the biggest things that irks me about a lot of knives. One of the things that irks me so much about knives is that they just don't seem to put a lot of thought into certain things. And it's not the designers. I know that it's not the designer's fault. There's companies that do a good job. This Cancept, nice pocket clip. You guys should have seen this coming. This is my biggest gripe in the knife community. This knife. Great pocket clip. That is one of the best pocket clips on the market. But every one of the fucking Kaisers that I like has got a fucked up pocket clip. And you can get away with a fucked up pocket clip every once in a while if the knife is the right shape. But you can't want to find the ultimate CEO type knife sometime. I think this Cancept Prickle is up there with, like, if you're talking about like that the CEO model. I think this one's pretty cool. This is just an all-around good knife. I like this knife a lot. And it wasn't that expensive. I got it on Amazon for, I want to say, like $60. Hit the like button, guys. Hit the like button. Drop a super chat if you want. It's been lonely. I haven't rang the bell very much tonight. But, yeah, it's just ridiculous that we let companies get away with it. And then the other thing that really just drives me fucking insane are fanboys. How about Spyderco inventing pocket clips and every single one they use is hot garbage? I told Sal, I blame Sal for the lack of ergonomics in knives these days. Like, it's all his fault. Then it wasn't heat treated well. I have never had Elmax chip. If it's chippy, it's a heat treat issue. I have had very, very little trouble with Elmax. But it's the fanboys. Like, have you ever seen what happens when somebody says something about Medford's knives? I don't fucking care. Like, they can say whatever they want about me. I don't like Greg's knives, and I really don't like Greg. I can look at it and say Greg's machining is, bar none, some of the best machining you're ever going to have. The Striders that Greg did for Mick, the best, hands down, the best production Striders that have ever been made. I just don't like Greg. I don't have to like Greg. I can look at, I don't like Greg's designs. I can look at one of Greg's knives and go, this is pretty well made. But that doesn't mean I have to like it or him. Now, Jake Hoback, I can't stand him, and I'd never own one of his knives. But back to the thing, fanboys are one of the worst things, because if you talk about a Spyderco knife, they dogpile and are like, well, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Your Spyderco's the best. I'm like, look, I got news for you. Spyderco has built up this thing where they have this really, 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 like, hardcore following of fanboys. And they will white knight for that company. Meanwhile, Spyderco is making knives that are less quality than they were 10 years ago. And they're charging you twice what they were 10 years ago. And these guys still come to their defense. And I'm like, guys, I got news for you. That company that you're white knighting for and fucking standing up for and all that shit, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't fucking know who you are. They don't even know you exist. Those are those incels. Like, those are those guys that fucking come to the defense of, like, the gamer girls, and they buy their bathwater and shit. That is the knife world. That is the knife community equivalent. Oh shit, James, what's up? Ring that motherfucker. James, you get special belt. Would you like?
I'll give you some hell's bells.
Yeah, those guys just really just piss me off. I'm like, bro, like, I got like 8 different versions of the same knife and 3 different colored handles with fucking 4 different steels. And I'm like, yeah, Nice collection. You got one fucking knife. No, no, you have one fucking knife. Like, you got one knife. That's it. You have one. And only one. Thank you, James, for the 20 bones. K390 is good. I do like K390. He sold okay, so my coworker is a big time doomsday prepper, and he sold a bucket of Spydercos for $20 each at a garage sale. Wish I had known ahead of time. Yeah. Like I said, here's the Benchmade fanboys, at least they'll admit, they're like, yeah, you're right. That 940 needs some fucking work. Or there's issues with this. Or that grind is fucked. Spyderco guys, oh my god. Spyderco and Medford. Like, you say anything and I'm like, Jesus Christ, are you sucking Eric Glesher's dick? What the fuck, bro? Like, do you buy his dirty underwear? What the fuck? They're the worst. Spyderco's K390 actually is pretty good. I had a Police 4 in K390 in. I think I had Nick Shabazz. I handled Nick Shabaz's and I sharpened it. And I was like, you know what? That's not a bad steal. And I do have to admit, while I am really partial to the Spyderco Police, the stainless steel one that I got, the original, as much as I love it, I have to admit the full flat grind K390 and FRN handle one is a better knife. But I didn't want a better knife. And when I got that one as a gift, I was like, you know what? That's exactly the one I wanted. Like, I can acknowledge that the knife that I love is inferior to the other model. And they do some, like, Spyderco's VG10. Somebody just put it up here. Spyderco's VG10, hands down, always. Always. I've never had an issue with it. Never once. That's not always true, though. That's not always true. They have really screwed up some steels in the past. I got a ZDP 189 Spyderco over there that will not hold an edge for shit. And I know how good ZDP 189 can be. And I know this because I've owned several other knives in ZDP 189, including this. And this thing's amazing. This will cut stuff. That one will not make it through an entire 12-pack case before it needs touched up. So they do good on steels that they've used for a long time. I will never own a Spyderco first run or a Benchmade first run. And H1 steel is just, no one should ever purchase anything in H1 steel. No one should, ever. It's horrible. And it's not that Spyderco didn't do a good job on the heat treat. It's just not a good steel. It's not a good. There are other nitrogen-based steels out there that are better, and I'm not a big fan of the nitrogen steels anyway. N690 is a nitrogen-based steel. I like it a lot better. N690 Cobalt, the N690 CO, is pretty good. I don't think I would buy a first run, second run, third run. I would wait until they have been doing it for a few years. Like K390, by the time I got to handle one of the police models in K390, they'd been doing it for a few years. And I'm like, okay, they try to do things. I think they try to do too much. I think they overload themselves. Bent the tip on an H1 fixed blade on a Cuda skull. Yeah, I know it's supposed to bend. That's why I hate it. My values align mostly with Medford, but I own a little everything, mostly American made. Like I said, that's fine. I can't, to sustain this channel, I couldn't only do American stuff. And the fact is, like I said, I don't like a lot of the American brands. Because I don't like a lot of their models. Like, Benchmade makes literally... I think Benchmade makes like 3 or 4 models that I really like. Like, I like the M, or 940. I like the 940, and I like the Crooked River, and the Mini Crooked River. Those are both really good knives. But I don't like much of all their other knives. I really don't. What was it? The Gale Bradley. Gale Bradley. They have a Gale Bradley in M4. That's a good knife. I actually did. I liked that one a lot. But most of their knives I really don't like. Hey, dickhead, I sent you an invite. So I can tell you about the bug out. It's a piece of shit. And then what the price, that's the thing. Like, it's not just that the quality, it's the fact that they're charging so much. You have athlete's foot. Fuck, man. Gale Bradley Spyderco. Okay, yeah, that was what it was. I couldn't remember it was Benchmade or Spyderco. That's a good knife. I love that knife. I really do like it. It was an M4. I sharpened one. I didn't want to send it back. I'm like, God, I wish I could say this got lost in the mail. Which is, I do have to say, that is the hardest part. You got to stay honest. There's so much stuff that comes in that I'm like, if I was a less honest person, well, I was a less honest person, I wouldn't have all these knives here that I borrow and get back to people and shit like that. Like if you're not an honest person, you can't run a YouTube channel like this. I literally have, fuck. We put a sliding bolt lock on the garage door out here, me and the landlord, so that you can't open a garage door from outside because the fact is I've got so much money in steel out here in this garage. Like, I'm always home, so I'm not too concerned about it. There's always someone here, either my wife or myself, and we always got a pew-pew somewhere close. Kid knows how to use it. My wife knows how to use it. I know how to use it. There's one within reach. But, you know, you go to bed and you got the garage. I didn't want to have to lock everything up at the end of night, so we put a deadbolt on. But, like, you can't be a dishonest person and get the amount of stuff in and out that I do. I'm doing 7 videos a week. Can't join. I was doing some dick in place. I don't want to hear what you did with some dick. Fanboys of Chinese brands because they don't realize it's in a specific company manufacturing a specific brand. I disagree. I'm telling you right now, like it may be all in the same area, but We Knife Company's manufacturing's in a different place. It's in a different plant. There are some companies that share. Artisan and CJRB share a facility. Artisan's an American company. But it's not all done in the same place. It's not like it's all one building. That is a misconception. It really is a misconception. There are multiple production houses. Riat has their own production house. We Knife Company has their own production house. Artisan and CGRB share a production house. They might help each other out with stuff. Like, I guarantee, like, if somebody's like, hey, man, if I send you over a spec, can you run me a set of screws? Hey, man, I can't get this part done because our machine's done. Can you run me a set of these scales? I'll bring over the material. So, like, but I'm going to, like, I've talked to enough people that have been there that, like, that's a misconception. That's like saying that, like, in France and Italy, the Opnel, that's like saying that all of those Italian knives are made in, I don't think it's like that. I think you have gotten a poor impression. I do believe that because there are some places like that, like a lot of the kitchen knife stuff. But when it comes to like the folding knives, it's not like that. And I know this because I'm friends with the owners of several of the companies. Did the American Artisan? I think it's still in the works. I can't really speak to it because I am kind of privy to what's going on, but I can't really speak to it. But it's probably still going to happen. The only Chinese that shops out parts is Best Tech. Like I said, I really don't think. I think that that's a big misconception because if, like, when you're working with the companies, they're going to kind of tell you what's going on with their shit. The only Chinese, Best Tech's one of those companies, but I'll tell you what, Tucson. I will tell you that Tucson is one of the companies that does stuff like that. So you have some companies that absolutely do that. Tucson, every run of Tucson, I'm gonna tell you right now, every run of Tucson is done in a different facility. Like, who's available to do this? So what's available to do it? And that's why you see things change. This knife, the first run was probably done somewhere, and then he did another run, and they're like, well, this company's got room and we'll throw it in. That absolutely I do know. But when you talk to We Knife Company, they have their own facility. They have their own facility and everything. And I know this because I was a designer with them. And I wanted to know a lot of these things. And they have their own facility. And that's why when you try to give them a done, they're like, look, we are full because we're making stuff for the Elliott's knives. We're doing this, we're doing that. They have their own production house. For some companies, I will admit there are, like I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, Reich, I guarantee Reich doesn't do that. You know how I know this? Because I know how picky Anthony Marfione is. If he thought that his designs were bouncing from place to place to place to place, he never would have done that SOCOM Bravo. He sued his own son for shit. I want you to think about that. There's no way that Anthony Marfione would have went with Reich if they were having one place make this and one place make this, and his design was bouncing from fucking production house to production house to production house. Never would have done it. Same with Elliott Williamson. There's no fucking way that he would have ever done that. If that was the case, there would be no knives coming out of We Knife Company with Elliott's logo on it. I'm telling you that right now. Anthony Marfione, Jim Skelton would not do that if he thought that his designs were bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. The same with Brian Nadeau. If Brian was always like, you fucking counterfeits and all this shit. There is no fucking way that Brian Nadeau would have done work with React if his designs were bouncing from place to place to place to place. So, are there some? Yeah, Tucson. I've known this for a long time. Tucson just finds a facility that can make the parts they need, do the knives, and that's why no two Tucsons are ever made in the same facility. I mean, they might be, but like typically they bounce around. And some of the that's why you only see some that's why you only see some Tucson knives available. Like they're gone because they do small runs, they sell out. Then they come back to it and they do it somewhere else and they sell a quick run and they just do it whatever material they've got available. That's why you'll see some that have thicker blade stock than others because they're like, well, we don't have that steel in that blade stock. Fine, just modify the clearance and shorten things. Just make it a little smaller and to accommodate the thinner blade stock. Absolutely. It's a shame that some Chinese companies aren't as honest and upstanding as premium U.S. makers like M3 Tactical Tech. Pardon me. Oh, probably. I would guarantee. I would guarantee that the heat, because Gabriel, here's the thing. Here in the United States, there's only like really for heat treat, if you want it done right, you want to get it done, there's only Peters, Phoenix. There's only a couple. There's like two big ones, and there's a couple small ones, and then there's some custom heat treat houses like I used to do custom heat treat. I used to do heat treat for knife makers. I used to do heat treat for other knife makers. Be like, hey bro, I got like 5 blanks in M390. Can you run that heat treat that you use on your 20 CV? I'll be like, yeah, sure. Just send them to me. I'll heat treat them for you. And they're like, cool. And I would charge them, for whatever because that's, heat treats about an 8 to 10 hour day. And I just like, all right, I'll charge you. You want 5? How about we do $100 a blade? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, that's not a bad day for me. So as far as heat treat, that's not uncommon that you have 1 or 2 facilities that just do heat treat for an entire area. Like I said, that's the way we do it here. even bigger knife companies, like I'm sure Spyderco might do some in-house heat treat, but a lot of places your blades just get sent off. Like I forget where Elliot was doing his heat treat. But it's just one, like he would get all his blades ground and double disc, and then they'd go off for heat treat, and then they'd come into him. And that's just how it was done. So Kaiser's 3V, 4V is decent. I heard that too. I haven't got to handle it. I do know their 154. Their 154 CM is good. That's what's on this one. Is 154 CM. So Kaiser's heat treat on this was spot on. It's great. I have not had to sharpen this yet, and it gets used for a lot of shit. There's stuff all over it. This gets used a lot for stuff, and it doesn't. It seems to hold up pretty good. So, any opinions on their 10V? I have not gotten any. I haven't done 10V. I have not seen any 10V. So, but I have also not been doing a lot of sharpening because of my shoulder. This is such a good knife. I really like this one. I am so surprised at how much I like. When Jared sent this to me, I was like, I'm like, that's pretty good. Tool and die maker. I remember when guys from Spyderco used our on their blades the first time. I have never had a good experience. I don't think cryo that was the issue. I think it was the steel that had been cryoed. Every time I got a knife that was cryo treated, it was chippy. It was like it was too hard. I don't know. But then again, I had 440 that was cryoed and stuff like that. So I don't know how it would benefit. I was going to do when we were going to do it up at Elliott's there for a while, we had a doer and we were trying to find someplace to give us liquid nitrogen. I was going to do 20 CV cryoed with nitrogen, liquid nitrogen. And I'm like, I just don't know if that much more work is worth the maybe half a point that you get on, like half a point to 1 point on a Rockwell. Because like I said, as long as you're running your steel in a range where it's not too soft, I'm not that guy that's like, oh, I got to have the highest Rockwell. And a lot of people mistake that with like, Mike doesn't give a fuck what the steels run at. No, 20 CV needs to be between 61 to 65. S125V needs to be at the end between 65 to 67. Those are numbers that you got to hit. What I'm saying is there's a lot of guys that won't buy anything unless it's in a super steel that's at like a ridiculous Rockwell. But like Shane was saying, the problem is these guys, they see that, oh, it's an S90V. Oh, it's an S110V. Oh, it's an S125V. And then they never look at the actual Rockwell. And they just don't understand that it's not being, because you can run S125V at 60 Rockwell. Is it going to be that good? Not really. S125V annealed when you buy it before you even harden it is at 55. There's a lot of knives out there that after heat treat, a lot of steels that after heat treat are at 55. S125V comes at 55. Like you could, for a lot of people, you could make that knife and never heat treat it and give it to them, and they might not know. Now, I know I was making those knives. So when I say the Rockwell's the last thing I look at, I'm not talking necessarily the Rockwell. I'm looking at the steel, basically, what I was saying. I don't have to have a super steel most of the time, especially for the things that I do these days. So, given your thoughts with their history on steels, what are your thoughts about Italians with magnet cut heat treat? I'll tell you what, one of the best M390 knives I ever had was the Leona and from Max Ace. Was it? No, not Max Ace. At any rate, it was one of those Italian. It was one of the Italian companies, and their M390. It was great. It was some of the best M390 I had. That little fixed blade that I have that's in the pocket of my jeans upstairs because I'm in a pair of track pants right now. Actually, no, it's over there. But that little Acheron L'Ascension done in M39 or I'm sorry, N690 CO. That's an Italian made knife, and it is really good. The heat treat on it is amazing. The edge is great. Crispy edge, holds it really well. Let me grab it. That's one I haven't had out for a while, I don't think. I had another knife in my. Where'd it go? There it is. I have another knife in a pocket of my jeans upstairs. Another fixed blade. It came in for review, and I'm not as over the moon with it as they had hoped I was. I don't think it's going to get a review. This one. That Bastinelli design Acheron. This is made by Viper in Italy, and the heat treat on this N690 or N690 CO, so good. This is such a good knife, and it takes such a. It is an actual, honest to goodness, scary edge. Like, it is aggressive. So, Giant Mouse, that's what it was. That's what it was. You're right. That's something Jared brought up in his rant video. D2 at one point was considered the cat's pajamas, but it's been so far yet companies continue to brag about using it. You can do, okay, I will say I've had some really good D2. There it is. The D2 that they did on this, which one is this? The Centros, the CGRB Centros. This D2 is great. Like this, I would take this off over a lot of other steels. The way the heat treat on this one is great. It has held an edge. It's aggressively sharp. You know, I'm not opposed to D2. I just find that D2 rusts a little more than I would like. Yes, the Steel Wheel Gecko is N690 CO, and it is nuts. It is nuts how good it is. You know what? I haven't, in my opinion, D2 is one of those steels where, like, it's pretty hard to screw it up. I have never, here's the thing. I've never had anything that Greg Medford made that was thin enough that I could actually determine whether it cut well and held an edge, because it's just always so fucking thick and shit. It's like a shovel. It's just too thick. Anyone have Real Steel knives? I've had a few of them in for review. They're pretty good. Real Steel, Steel Wheel. They're pretty good. Dumb question, are CRKT knives American made? I at this point, I don't think many of them are. I think some of them were. I think a lot of them are made in Taiwan right now. So I was really hoping that Polly would come in. I will say, like, I said it in the video I did about five knives you may have missed. I was talking about AR RPM 9 steel. People are like, oh, it's cheap, it's a garbage steel. I gotta disagree. AR RPM 9 is, what does CRKT stand for? Columbia River Knife and Tool. Columbia River Knife and Tool, that's what it stands for. I like AR RPM 9 a lot. And I think it's one of those budget steels that gets overlooked. It's got some unique properties to it. It sharpens up really easily. it holds an edge surprisingly well for how easy it is to sharpen it. And then, who's leaving? What? Night, Alice. Chinese river knife tool. I'm not bragging on D2. I'm just saying there are better options. All things being equal, things are hardly ever equal. Things are hardly ever equal, and I'd prefer good T2 over underperforming M390. Yeah. D2 that's heat treated properly is always going to be better than something that's not heat treated properly. What was this? I think she's pissed because I'm the guy that asked her and Chuck to stop talking about their drones all the time on the channel. Then she got pissed at Mike and got her panties. Alice got other things going on. She's not about you, Pitt. Cheap retail knife things. That's cool. I had a friend that had a tattoo, and it was NTBFW. And I knew exactly what it was. He saw it, but no one really knew what it was. And he was like, he had wrestled on the Navy wrestling team. He was an alternate for the Olympics, I think, if I remember correctly. But the dude was a badass. Like, you didn't want to fuck with him. It's like he'd wrestle you and he'd get you all hemmed up. People are like, why do you let him do that? And I was like, it's a lot like a bear attack. If you just play dead and just let him, he's just gonna lose interest. And they're like, what the fuck? I was like, if you fight back, just make it take longer. It's just let him wrestle you and do whatever the fuck he wants. He'll get bored of it. And so he had a tattoo and it said NTBFW, not to be fucked with. And everybody was like, what's that tattoo stand for? And he was like, what do you think it stands for? And they'd always come up with shit. And he'd be like, no, it stands for nice to big fat women. And one day we're out there and somebody was like, what's that tattoo stand for? And they're like, well, what do you think it stands for? And I looked at him and I'm like, do you want me to tell him? And he goes, no, don't tell him. I was like, it's North Texas Bean Farm Worker. And he was like, where the fuck? Like, he was like, that's a good one. That's a fucking good one. That is good. You know what? As a matter of fact, that gets free bell. You get a freebie, Nick. That is funny. Cheap retail knife things. It's not an American steel. It's not. It's AR-RPM-9 is Artisan and CJRB's proprietary powdered metallurgy that they came up with. It's really good. It holds an edge relatively well for as easy it is to sharpen. And then the fact is, it absolutely strops up like nothing I've ever seen. You can have it dull to the point where you're like, wow, that's dull. And strop it up on some newspaper and you're like, holy shit, that's insane. I don't know if it's the cobalt and stuff that they added to it, some of the rare earth elements that they added to it. It's pretty freaking good. Oh, yeah. He's talking about EDC and lace. The CJRB is... No, I'm sorry, CJRB. CRKT is famous for having some quality controls issues. So... M390 at 61 to 63 is not horrible. But like I said, you honestly have to look at the fact of like you like trying to do it on a regular like a regular grinder and shit to fucking do the disc. If you run it on a fucking what the fuck is the grinder they use for the bubbles? At any rate, like it'll burn them up. You got to be careful. Like they have to. There is a production heat treat for M390, and then there's a custom heat treat for M690, N69 or M390. Jesus Christ. That new CMB Predator with the 14C20. I like the CMB made knives. I have had 3 of them in. And I can honestly say I like all 3 of them that have come in. I think I got a super chat. I'll get to it when I'm going down through here. Yeah. If you're not running the steel properly, I absolutely have to agree with Shane when he put that out. Like, if you're not running the steel at the proper heat treat and you're still charging people the super steel price, that's not cool. That's absolutely not cool. If you can't grind it at that high heat treat, then don't use that steel. Like, I used a belt grinder to make the knives, and I had absolute control over how I was doing it. I was doing it very slow and literally took hours and hours and hours to grind a knife. A knife company can't do that. They have to be able to get those knives kicked out like that. So the way they were grinding them, if you try to run sometimes if you try to run those steels at the high heat treats, you're going to have a real hard time with it. And my thing is, like, if you can't do it at the recommended heat treat, then just don't do it at all. 14C, what was this? How does RPM 9 compare to 14C and Nitro V? I've said this a bunch of times. You can't compare different steels. They have completely different qualities, completely different compositions. You're not going to get the same thing. 14C 28N takes a really crispy, aggressive edge at pretty much any grit. ARPM 9, you can't go above, like, I wouldn't take it above 600-700 grit. It gets slick. Same thing with S35VN. Nitro V, I just don't like Nitro V, so I really don't know what to tell you. I don't like that idea of comparing different steels because they're different. And all these steels that we use in the knife world, very few of them were designed specifically for knives. A lot of them come from the plastics manufacturing industry because cutting plastics is really, really, really hard on the edge and everything. And if you've got a steel that cuts plastic and holds up to plastics really well, it's probably going to do really well in a knife because plastic is incredibly wear resistant and cut resistant, and it's abrasive, and it definitely screws things up. That's where M390, Bowler M390 was the plastic cutting industry standard for a long time. And I know I'm way behind on these. Oh, have some dollars, Nate says.
You get Coal Bell. Tri-State EDC Bell. There you go.
Complete with the accent. And I know that because, well, we're from the same part of the world. Actually, I found out that the gentleman that won the knife, I think he's still in here. There he is. Alestria 40 actually is from New Philadelphia, Ohio, which is just about 45 minutes up the road from where I live in Ohio. He actually met his wife at the roller rink that we used to go to on Saturdays. It was on the same street as Randall's Family Restaurant, where they had some of the best liver and onions in the world. So that was pretty cool. So thanks for the 10 bones, Just Nate. I'm getting caught up here. For anything under $120, I'll take 14C RPM 9 any day. I am a big fan of 14C. Like, you can put 14C in a lot of knives, and I'll take it because I know it's easy to maintain. I know it's going to hold its edge really well. I know it's going to take an aggressive edge, and I know I can sharpen it on almost anything. That's my big criteria right there, if you really want to know. Oh, custom EDC knives. What's up, Daniel? I am probably filming one of the two knives that you sent tomorrow. I'm going to try and I can't remember what I've got on my schedule. My notebook is over there. I can't remember if I have the Warren tack on the schedule to film tomorrow or if it's the Ritter, but I should be getting through your knives before too long. Yeah, I hate comparing steels. Asking me to compare steels is like that's like asking somebody to pick which is their favorite kid. You just can't really do it. Like, each steel has its own benefits and they don't always line up. You know what I'm saying? 14C is one of those ones for me that just kind of hits that sweet spot. And that's why I'm why I really like it in a lot of knives. I'll actually pay a little bit more for a knife in 14C when other people are like, oh, that's a garbage steel. I personally like it because it hits that sweet spot of where everything lines up for me. It holds its edge pretty decent. It's really easy to sharpen up on almost anything. The edge it takes is just nasty aggressive, and you can cut just about anything you want with it. And typically, it's fairly rust resistant. It kind of falls in that little Goldilocks zone for me for steels. There's a lot of other steels that don't do that. You know what I mean? Some of them like, oh yeah, that's great. It holds the edge. Its edge retention is really good. But if I'm in the field, like it's a whole fucking ordeal to sharpen it if it gets dull. That's what I like about ARPM 9. It's easy to sharpen. You can sharpen it just about on anything. As a matter of fact, it does better on your cheaper aluminum oxide stones than it does on diamond because it's a little bit softer. And I think it's the cobalt in it and maybe some like almost like S35VN with the niobium. It kind of feels gummy on the stones and it kind of loads your stones. And it maintains really easily. All you need is a piece of newspaper and a block. And it's really rust resistant. It falls in that Goldilocks zone for me. So where's my bell? It's right here. Thanks for the 2 bones. When you see the prices for USA made knives for 2023, inflation is real. It's not, I don't necessarily think it's inflation. I think it kind of is. Like everybody, like I talked about it. Like it's not just inflation. The price of everything's went up, but you also got to figure inflation's actually, yeah, it is inflation. Cost of everything went up, so companies have to pay their employees more so that they can live, so they can keep their employees. Electricity went up, water went up, fucking shipping went up, getting materials to you went up. But yet, like, everybody understands, like, they go to the gas pump and they look at it. Like, I got into this, like, somebody was like, I can't believe that they raised the price on the fucking, on the Chris Reese Sabenza. And I'm like, really? Have you looked at what the price of eggs is right now? Like, that price is across the board for everyone. So, like, to then say, well, I can't believe that they'd raised the price on something. I was like, I can't believe that you can't believe that. Like, I just don't get it. The chat is a lot easier to follow now despite the means. I don't know what that is. Later, Carlton. Yeah, I mean, they will a lot of times. A lot of steels will. And it also depends on what kind of plastic we're talking about. Like, I'm not talking about, like, cutting plastic, sheeting, or... You want to see if a knife will hold an edge? I'll tell you what. Go to a construction site and cut Visqueen. That's that translucent, like, anytime you're digging and the spoils, you got to cover it, use Visqueen. It's that, like, clear plastic. It's kind of thick. It's waterproof. That shit will dull the fuck out of a knife. Another one is filter fabric, like for in holes if you've got to do irrigation and you got to put the control boxes and stuff. You got to put the filter fabric in. That shit, those things right there will dull a knife faster than anything on any construction site. I'm trying to scroll down here. Was a CRK just announced their first USA made knives, 2-axis style, made by Hogue. See, I would just rather that Hogue just made their own fucking knives. Let's see here. I'm trying to get caught up. Yeah, that's what I was saying. They should put their brand first. Yeah, Sea Snake is pretty good. Mike isn't doing this many lives exhausting. Nah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I get to interact with people. There's a lot of times that right after a live feed, I'll do a movie night with my paying members because I don't sleep. Custom EDC knives. So I should have done 14C on the Warren tax. I don't know. Like I said, I find 14C to be a really, really total package. I'll tell you another thing that surprises people hang on, trying to put knives away. Another thing that surprises people when I talk about knives, I like 9CR. Some of my favorite knives have been in 9CR. I think it's a good solid steel. I'm trying. Okay, I am finally caught up. I'm finally caught up with the chat. So, isn't 14C more forgiving on heat treat? I really don't know. I've never heat treated. I've never heat treated it. I will tell you that 1095 for a steel, pardon me, for a steel a lot of people have worked with, 1095 is a bitch when it comes to heat treat. You can fuck up. You can definitely fuck up the heat treat on 1095. Where'd that? There it goes. What was this? Yeah, 9CR actually is a good solid steel if it's done well. Elliot did the prototypes of the Stinger. This is one of the prototypes. Elliot did his in 9CR, and he asked me, he was like, well, you want to carry the prototype for a while? And I carried the prototype, and then he's like, well, here's the production one. And I brought it back to him, and he's like, just keep it. And I was like, I'd rather have the prototype. And he goes, it's a 9CR. I was like, yeah, I don't like Nitro V. I like the 9CR in this way better than I like Nitro V. Cold Steel 8CR will take a car apart. Cold Steel has always, hands down, always had good heat treat. I have yet to have a knife that was a bad heat treat. That fucking Kudu is in 5CR, and I'm like, it cuts and holds up like a beast. So you know what? I don't think they ever had the bagels out here in California at McDonald's. So SE seems to do a good job on their 1095. Yeah, SE does a good job. There's a couple other companies. I'm just saying it's one that's easy to screw up, especially because it's an oil quench. We screwed up the first heat treat and had to reheat treat it and wound up with a differential heat treat. We wound up with a true Hamon on that 1095. And I was pretty happy with the final heat treat on I did 2 custom knives in 1095. So, but yeah, Cold Steel has done some steels, like their OS 8. Oh, Ashley 8's a garbage steel. I'm gonna tell you right now, it may be for a lot of companies, but I'm gonna tell you right now, Cold Steel's OS 8 was pretty good. And I don't like XHP. I'm not a big fan of XHP. The typical heat treat you get on XHP, I don't like the edge it takes. Like, I don't like the way the edge feels. Just feels gritty. It doesn't cut the way I want, doesn't sharpen the way I want. But Cold Steel did a run of a few knives in XHP, and I got it, and I was like, this is what XHP is supposed to be like. This is how it's supposed to be. Ooh, I'm sleepy. Guys, so last night I finished editing and filming and stuff. And at like 9:30, I'm like, I'm pretty tired. I think I'm going to go to bed. And I expected, typically what happens is I go to bed and then I can't sleep. I'll just lay there. And so I went to bed last night, like 9:30. It's tomorrow. I'm going to bed. And she knows that means I'm probably not going to go to sleep. I'm going to wind up just laying there looking at the ceiling fan, and I'll turn the TV on for a couple hours. Typically, I'll go to bed at like 9:30, and I'll be asleep by midnight. I did not even get my CPAP mask on. I woke up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, what the fuck? Fucking bedroom light was still on. Like, I didn't even turn the bedroom light off. Like, I sat down on the edge of the bed and just fucking knocked out. Didn't even put my CPAP mask on, and I was out. And I got up, and I turned the light off, and I put my CPAP mask on, and I slept till 8 this morning. And then I had a bunch of stuff. I was doing. I got a bunch of new affiliate requests. I will let you guys know that. Once you hit, I wasn't joking. Jared and I were talking about it. I've gotten so many affiliate requests. A lot of them are genuine requests, but there's a lot of them that are fake. It's all scams. But I got a lot of affiliate requests, and there's a couple of them I think we're going to add to the list of affiliates. There's a company that makes those metal wallets. They're going to send me one of their products. And then there's a couple of other companies that kind of fall into the realm of things that would be beneficial. So you're probably going to hear me talk about them from time to time. I'm definitely going to do a video about that wallet when they send me one. But Cold Steel's S35VN was amazing. It was. I was like, this is how S35VN should be done. I'll tell you who else does a really good job on heat treat for S35VN. And this is what makes me think, Gabriel, this is what makes me think that Gabriel 777, this is what makes me think that you might be wrong about the heat treat for some companies anyway, because We Knife Company's heat treat is better than the other Chinese company's heat treat. Like, I have found their heat treat superior. Like, it's We Knife Company's S35VN is some of the best S35VN, period. Like, it really, really is. And I don't know if they're doing it at a different hardness or what, but it's really, really good. I was not a big fan of S35VN for a long time. Cold Steel's, I think, is up there. I think Cold Steel and We Knife Company is real similar on how their S35VN is done. But I honestly think that some of the best S35VN I've had came from We Knife Company. ZT S35VN? I don't like anything ZT does. I have not liked a ZT knife. I have not liked a ZT knife ever, really. I have ever only owned one. And the only reason I owned it was because I wound up having to buy a customer a new knife because their knife got damaged while it was in my custody. Like, it got broke. The tip got broke off of it. And I was like, fuck it. I got to buy this guy a new knife. So for a $35 sharpening, because what happened was it was a guy on base, and, you know, the old ZT 0300 BLK, the one that was the big weird recurve with the big belly, and it was the Ken Onion speed safe. It fell out of my backpack and it landed on the flipper tab and it snapped open on the concrete, and it snapped. Oh, hey, I didn't see that. It snapped the blade open and it knocked like the entire tip off the blade. And I told the guy, I was like, I can get you a new blade for it. And he's like, and I showed him what the new blade would be like, and he goes, no, he's like, no, you're gonna have to get me a new knife. And I'm like, great. So a $35 sharpening turned into me buying him a $300 knife. Yeah, recurve and a big belly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I had to, I'm going to answer your question in a second there, Daniel. And I owned it. So I sent it in to get a new blade put on it. And ZT was like, hey, can you send the old blade in? We want to check and see if there was a heat treat issue. That shouldn't happen. I'm like, well, it absolutely happened. And I was like, fuck. And so I wound up selling that knife, but I didn't like it. That was the only ZT I've ever owned, and I didn't like it. I don't like Kershaw's either. I don't like their knives. They try too hard to be overbuilt, and they just kind of miss the mark with it. I really don't like a lot of their knives. Mike, do you think people would be interested in uploaded videos on my process of regrinding knives? Absolutely. Some of the best knives I did when I was still able to grind knives, some of the best videos I did were the shop videos when I was making stuff and refinishing stuff. People seem to love that. If you set up a channel, we'll talk about it here. I'll put up links. We got to ring a bell for you too. Sorry, I cleared it off, but here's your bell. Cold Steel had some early designs that are really classy. Guys, you're going to see a video next week that is a vintage 1980s Cold Steel knife. Just shot a video about it. It took me way back. It took me back. I'm like, oh God, this is the one that junior high and high school Mike saw in knife magazines and in fucking catalogs and just could not imagine paying that much for a knife. You guys are going to see that. Vintage. Such good shape. It's like mint. The sheath is fucked up, but it's still in like mint condition. The blade, the knife is anyway. ZT was my first American-made knife, and I hated it. Here's the thing, ZT, I don't know if you guys know this, ZT is not an American company. ZT is a branch of Kai. It's Kai of America. It's a Japanese company. Kai owns it. So you can say it's Kai of America, but it's still parent company is Kai of Japan, which if you buy anything that's made out of metal in Japan, a knife, sink, or the items to sharpen those items with, unless you're buying a custom kitchen knife from a specific hardware store or stuff like that, like you would see if you went into this shop. If you went into my shop here, let me get rid of this background so you can see my shop. If you go into my shop here, what we have here, these are not made by Kai. I only sell custom, small production knives. I just turned off the green screen. So this is what it looks like in my knife shop. I fucking wish that I worked here. I wish I had this. So 1980s knives. Yeah, it's a good knife. It's so nice. So you'll get to see it next week. Let's see. You should have your wife and daughter get some photos of knife shops when they were in Japan. Where the fuck do you think that picture came from? You seriously thought, like, where do you think that came from? Like, I got that picture from them. I can't remember if I got it from them or if I got that from my father-in-law. Like, that's a Japanese knife. That's a Japanese fucking cutlery shop in my wife's hometown. That's not like, looks like Seki City. Yeah, that'd be cool. I wish that it looked like that in my studio. So yeah, that is a photo. Oh, angles. I know, because this works out. Like, that one works out really well. Hang on. That one works out really well because it looks like I'm at the counter. It just looks like I'm sitting, like I'm at the counter at a knife shop. I think if you were to go find, I set up a, there's no such thing as a reverse Tonto. There's no such thing. There is no such thing. You know what a reverse Tonto is? It's like a clip point warning. It's like, if a reverse Tonto means that the Tonto part's on the back. I heard you, if you stayed in front of the Hubble telescope, you'd finally be able to see your tiny cock. Hey, look, motherfucker, if your dick doesn't hang below your ball sack when it's soft, you need to lower your fucking voice when you talk to me, all right? Half of them aren't even clip points. Is Bubbles here tonight? No, Bubbles isn't here tonight. Fucking Polly. Yeah. Yes. Just straight up warnies. That's like somebody tried to tell me that that's a reverse Tonto. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, well, yeah, it is. I was like, no, because there's no such thing as a reverse Tonto. It doesn't exist. What's a reverse Tonto? I'm like, no, you're just ignorant. Warnie doesn't have any belly, they're straight. That's not necessarily true. Like, there's so many, like, that's so, I did the thing about that. I wanted to talk about that in a video too. Wharncliffes and sheep's foot, and like, everybody thinks a Wharncliffe is a perfectly straight. And technically it's supposed to be, but a Wharncliffe is just a variation of a sheep's foot. And there's a lot of Wharncliffes and sheep's foot that have a little bit of belly. Have I had any knives in HAP 40? I sharpened 2 knives in HAP 40. And I'm going to say I was not impressed or unimpressed. Either way. Well, I'm saying, okay, I want you to think about what a Tonto is. So when people see a Tonto, this is what they think of. But that's not a Tonto. Tonto does not have that distinct point on it like that. It doesn't have that. It's rounded over and it's much more slender and things like that. The names on things have stayed the same and things have been bastardized and changed. So there's so many knives out there that are listed as Wharncliffes. I disagree. No, I disagree. You know what the difference from everything that I've seen, the difference between a sheep's foot and a warning. Okay. Now, being somebody that made, designed, and ground some Wharncliffes, that's a warning. It's perfectly straight. The big difference, when you talk to a lot of folks, and this is the thing, like people argue about these points. The fact is, most people really don't know. A Wharncliffe, the big difference is the point. A sheep's foot can have a perfectly straight edge. A warning can have a little bit of belly. What you get is a much more piercing tip on a Wharncliffe than you do on a sheep's foot. Sheep's foot is much more rounded at the end. It doesn't have a piercing tip. That's the big difference. We had sheep's foot blades that we used on the ship, and they were perfectly straight. They were listed as a sheep's foot. The packaging called it a sheep's foot. The company called it a sheep's foot. And the only difference between that and this was much rounder and not as pointed. There's a big variation on what people call stuff. What's the penguin? That's what I was getting ready to say. That's perfectly fake. That's a sheep's foot. That's a sheep's foot. It's a much blunter, shorter transition to the tip as opposed to a long transition to a piercing tip that you get on a warning. That's perfectly straight. Sheep's foot, Wharncliffe. Then you have the sheep's cliff, which it's just all that's the big difference. Like when you read, like when they were designing it, the ones that, like, I did the whole story about, like, Lord Wharncliffe and how he wanted to have a knife design. They basically took a sheep's foot and stretched out the tip, and they were like, "Wow, it's a new knife," because he wanted to have a knife design named after him and stuff like that. And if you read the history, there's not a big difference between a sheep's foot and a Wharncliffe. And just like we said with the Tonto, that now everybody's like, well, that's a Tonto. No, that's not a Tonto. That's an Americanized Tonto. So, but I was saying, like, if you read the history on it, like at this point, like people argue, and I'm like, but if you go back and you look at the history of it, that's where it came from. Like there wasn't a big variance. It was just, they changed the sweep of it a little bit. And to tell you the truth, this is technically a drop point, because you know what? Before I ever made this into a Wharncliffe, I had done drop point versions of it. And my buddy was like, he's like, but what if you did the edge on the back instead of, like, this was the edge and it kind of dropped down a little bit at an angle? He's like, what if you just flipped it? And I'm like, I could do that. I have a drop point version of it. And all I did was I put it down and I drew the handle on it, and then I flipped it over and I drew the blade on as a warning and I ground it and sharpened it. Guess what? Technically, this is just a flipped drop point. That's all it is. That's all I did. It's not that creative. Oh, I don't want to write a book. No one reads anymore. Fuck, I don't even read anymore. I should be reading right now. I still want the drop point sea snake. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get it done. I'm holding off. I've got to talk to someone. We're talking about doing some American versions of the stonefish. Some American versions of stonefish. It would be a 2.0, so there'd be some changes. There'd be a mini stonefish. The habu, which is the drop point version. Those are hopefully coming, and they're going to be American made versions. All right, Gabriel. What's this? Is that a sheep's foot or Warncliffe? Where are we at on that? Just curious. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. But like when you go back and you look at it, there was a lot. There's a lot of Warncliffes that are listed as Warncliffes that have a little bit of belly. There really are, and they're still listed as Warncliffes. It's a sheep's cliff. It's a Warren sheep. That's clearly a reverse Tonto. I think it's a spear point. I don't know. That's a Warren's foot. There you go. It's a Warren's foot. The whole thing is, like, there's some arguments that happen, and I'm like, when it comes down to it, it really doesn't matter. But there just are some. There are some that are absolutely mislabeled. Like I said, did you see that earthquake? Just that is the weirdest thing. Like when I have the green screen, watch this. When I bump it, like I'm the only thing that moves. Like it doesn't. It's not really. That's how you know somebody's using the green screen. It's a camel toe. It's a camel toe. See a lot of camel's toes, but I've only ever seen a few on a camel. I saw Stas's video on Warnies. He made it sound like absolutely had to be a perfectly straight edge, but it's not true. Like I said, if that's the way a lot of people say it now. But like I said, if you go back and like I delved into the fucking history of it and like where it came from and who it was named after and when they started doing it and examples and stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying. The original Warncliffes were basically just sheep's foot that they brought the edge, the tip down at a different angle. And I mean, I spent like a long time doing it. It was one of those videos that I did and people were like, wow, I didn't know that. And I was like, yeah, it's just people look at it. Well, that's just the name. And I was like, well, it comes from somewhere. So I'm not trying to argue either. I'm just saying like, there's a lot of stuff that when you delve into the history of it, see, a ton of them weren't perfectly straight. They were basically it was a status thing that the Lord Warncliffe wanted to he wanted, it was a status thing. He wanted a type of knife named after him and his region. And they took an existing design and they kind of modified it a little bit, stretched it. And when you stretch that, it kind of does straighten the belly out a little bit. But yeah, like Spitfire said, there was a ton of them out there that were, what did Zorro say? Zorro was trying to... Professor EDC's here. How's it going? Yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. Like I looked it up. That's Lord Warren, was Lord Warncliffe or the Lord of Warncliffe. Either that was his title or it was a region. At any rate, he wanted his own knife design for the knife makers of his region to make. So it was like a status thing at the time. People forget how important knives were. Like knives have been some of the most important things. It's our second oldest tool. They're like, what do you mean it's our second oldest tool? I was like, you got to have a hammer to make a knife. Like that's just, you have to have a hammer to make a knife. So therefore, the knife is our second oldest tool. Here we go. Share a screen. Share screen. History of the Warncliffe blade knife design. Lord Warncliffe was a patron of Joseph Rogers and Son Cutlers to the Majesties and one of the most important figures in their famed Sheffield cutlery industry. He presented to them. The blade was called the Warncliffe blade after the Lord himself a few years later. To say the Warncliffe first appeared in The 1820s might be disingenuous. Sometime after the 11th century, Vikings had a fixed blade called the sax, or the sax had a straight edge and a tapering tip. But typically, yes, they are very straight, but there are a lot of other variations on it. So there you go. You're a tool. I'm just kidding. Well, that's like, okay, now you have port and starboard, but it used to be starboard and larboard. Did you guys know that? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. A lot of them were, but there are there's variations on sheep's foot too. Like if you look at those pictures, those are a lot of modern representations. But there also are a lot of straight sheep's foot. There's a lot of like Wharncliffes that aren't perfectly straight. It just is, it's one of those things. And you got to remember, those drawings are the modern representations on that website. But those ones you saw, those were Sheffield knives from, I looked at that website when I brought up some of the information. Those were Sheffield knives from the 1920s as examples. So they were going to, like, blade shapes change over time. Definitely do. Oh, so glad you discussed this about being on this info. Everyone seems to have their own take on what a sheep's foot, ram's foot, like, and now modified. And here's the thing, like, at this point, it really doesn't matter. The big ones that really drive me nuts are the Tonto, because the Americanized Tonto has just been started to be called a Tonto. And it's not, it's absolutely so much different. I don't even want to talk about Persian. I don't like Persian blades, to tell you the truth. There's a few knives out there that have Persian blades that are okay. But a lot of times I don't like the big swept blade. Have you ever had any ceramic sharpening stones from Nano? You asked me this. I have not. I have had, yeah, trailing point isn't a thing. It's Persian. The big swept blade, like the Arroyo and several other knives, those are absolutely called Persians. Like the Persian scimitar sword. I definitely smell weed. I think my neighbor's smoking in his garage. Does the Tonto hat need to have a straight back? No, because Tonto, like some of your Tonto knives had a small curvature to them because they were made just like Japanese swords. Americanized Tontos definitely have a straight back, a straight spine, but a lot of your older Tontos, which were like considered a short sword. So you had your katana, and then you had your short sword, and then you had a Tonto, which also could be carried as a short sword. So a lot of times they had a bit of a curve to them because they were differentially heat treated, and so when they would quench them, the softer steel in the spine cooled slower than the hard steel at the front. And so it allowed it to curve. That's what establishes the curve. If you watch when they make a Japanese sword, that curvature of the katana is established. Like that blade is pretty much straight when they put it into quench. And that's why a lot of Japanese Tontos have a bit of a curve, a bit of a radius to the spine because of the way they quench it. The one that my wife had was not differentially heat treated. It's old. It was her mother's that she carried, but it was more of a Wakizashi. Yeah, Wakizashi. I didn't want to get too much into the technical terms, but yeah, Wakizashi. You had your Tonto, which was your small utilitarian dagger. Then you had your Wakizashi, and you had your katana. And they're usually a set of 3, but she only very often carried 2. So we don't talk about trailing point in this chat. Just let him eat his cheese and crackers. Well, that's great, Spitfire. I honestly don't agree. The ones that everyone is calling like trailing points are the ones that the entire blade is swept, and it's like I already packed it up. I had one. So, but no, it's a lot of fun to get into that stuff. I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm not drinking. I think I'm gonna have to like completely stop drinking again. I had those 3 beers I had 3 beers during the Wednesday night live feed, and my stomach hurt so bad. I thought I was gonna have to go back to the hospital. I'm like, my God, that my diverticulitis kicked right back up. I'm like, I guess I'm done again. Mike must have missed what I said. No, I saw it. Dickhead. I already have a knife you sent me that has got a hole in the universe. Like it doesn't exist. Which is good. It needs to not exist. Where is that NAF mat from? Talk about the one I do my videos on. It is nafs.com. That is Ben. Banter Ben. That's his deal. Like he does those. Nafs.com. I don't know if it would. Some colors even like that really does just diss a fucking pair, doesn't it? Oh, I gotta try something. I didn't want. Do I have GERD? No. It wasn't GERD. I have diverticulitis. Like it was down low. Like it was that I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go back to the hospital. My guts are bleeding. I have I have a lower intestine, large intestine issue. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. That knife you sent me has one redeeming quality, Will. Okay. Okay. That's kind of cool. You got to admit, that's pretty cool. I'm going to have surgery. I'm going to have surgery for it, Jeffrey. I just keep putting it off. I want to put it off as long as I can. I don't want to have, they're going to have to take out like 18 inches of my lower intestine. And I'm going to have a colostomy bag for like 8 to 10 weeks. No, 6 to 8 months. That's what it was. So I active camo Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I was like, I just thought about it. I was like, the string even. That thing has a Predator cloak. That is actually pretty cool. I have to admit, that is pretty cool. Do you remember when they called Jade G10 Ghost G10? I remember when Jade G10 was just circuit boards. Like, that's all it is. Jade G10 is the shit that they used for circuit boards. They just made it thin. It was just a lot thinner. And I got news for you. Jade G10 fucking stinks. If you've ever made handles out of that Jade G10, it smells so bad. Like it gets in your skin, it gets in your hair. Like my beard would smell like it, like for days. Like you get home, you take a shower, and you're like, oh, cool. And the next day you take a shower, and like you can still smell it in your beard and in your skin. Have you ever been next to a campfire where you're burning like wood that has like heavy smoke content, like pine or something that's like kind of a greasy style wood? If you get done and you get it all cleaned up and you take a shower for days, your beard will smell like campfire smoke. Same thing when you're working with Jade G10 on a grinder. It stinks. And you can wash your beard, you can wash your hair, you can wash your fucking skin. It doesn't matter. For at least a week, that's what you're going to smell like. Yeah, it sucks. It hurts. I can't have most of the foods I like anymore. Peanuts are my favorite snack. Peanuts are my favorite snack. Can't ever have peanuts until after I have the surgery. Well, maybe never. Tomatoes. I fucking love tomatoes. Can't have tomatoes because of the seeds. They're like, well, you can take the seeds out. I'm like, the stuff that holds the seeds is what is the best flavor out of the tomato. So, make me feel better that my knees popped on the Army interview. Fucking My knees and shoulders ain't any goddamn better. I remember when it was called Natural G10. I remember when it was called G. It wasn't called G10. It was called G something. It was G5, and it was the clear, Natural G10. I don't like it. I never found it attractive. I never have. Like, I didn't like any of the knives that came in it. So that doesn't exist anymore either. That is actually, I do have to say, that is the coolest. Like, you're in it. Can you imagine? You're just like, what's up with your hands above your head? You're like, nothing. Knife. It doesn't exist. I've got to get up and see Bob Terzuola. I keep seeing him post videos of him making that custom knife with the jade, the actual jade, stone jade handles. And I keep telling Bob, he keeps asking me, Bob has asked me like 6 times, hey, when are you coming up? And what I think is I'm afraid that Bob, I keep, every time I get to see Bob Terzuola, absolutely take advantage of it. Because Bob's not getting any younger. And I just dread the day that I can't talk to Bob anymore. So I do need to make a trip up to his shop. I will film it. That's the plan. I'm going to tell Bob, maybe that's something we'll do. Maybe that's something we'll do in the next couple weekends. I'm sure Bob is at SHOT Show, and then I'm sure Bob's got to do some knife shows. I'm going to pick a weekend. I'm going to take my daughter up. He wants to meet my daughter. I'm going to take my daughter up, and we're going to go up to Bob's, and I'll film at Bob Terzuola's shop. That is one of my favorite people in the world. Him and Tom Mayo. Fuck. Guys, there's some people that are like, there's no fucking way you're friends with these people. Yeah, Tom Mayo is like one of my favorite people at a knife show. I love going to the California Custom Show. Tom Mayo's always there. And like, one of my favorite things is just me hanging out with Tom Mayo, because it's just nuts to see the way me and Tom interact at a knife show. How do you do that? Is that knife all green? Yes, that knife is all green. So yeah, I'm such good friends with Tom Mayo. Like, that is one of the things I look forward to every year, is getting to talk with Tom Mayo. Like, people like Tom is a knife legend. Him and Bill Ruppel. Like, I'm friends with Bill Ruppel. Every time I see Bill, we get to talking. And so, but like, Tom Mayo is just a nut. And so we'll be at a show, and I'm talking with people, and like, I was talking with a guy, and Tom Mayo walked up and hit me in the dick with a $1,000 piece of Timascus. And he's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, you motherfucker, I'm filming. So like, I had a guy that was standing around. I was like, what's your favorite thing you've seen at the knife show? And he looks around and he goes, see that guy? Him and Tom Mayo? And like, we were walking around like 2 of the 3 amigos, and he's like, those two just hanging out together has been the best thing I've seen at the show. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, you guys are hilarious. So, guys, I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna go tell my kid goodnight. Actually, no, she's already in bed. Mayo's folders are amazing. Tom Mayo makes some amazing knives. And he's just such a fun dude. Like, I'll grab it and I'll show it to you. Before I end the live feed, I'll show you. I came back from the California Custom Show, and I had a bunch of stuff that came back from the California Custom Show with me. Stuff that I was going to treasure, stuff that Nico brought with me, and I had my backpack came unzipped, and I was going through stuff, and I called Nico, and I was like, Nico, I absolutely think that I left that little coin that Tom Mayo gave me at the hotel. He goes, no, I'm sure you packed it. And I was like, bro, I can't find it anywhere. It had fallen out of my bag and landed on the ground behind my car. And like, I was wrecked. All the shit that I had that I brought back from the show, all the cool shit that I had that people had given me and shit, all the expensive knives that were in my bag from the show. The most important thing to me, because Tom is such a good dude and he's my friend, was this bullshit little fucking Hawaii coin he gave me. It's just a little Hawaii challenge coin that he gave me. But the fact was, Tom gave it to me. He didn't give it to a bunch of people. There was only a couple of them that he had. Like, he had like 3 of them. And he walked up to me and he was like, hey, I forgot to give you your coin. And I was like, my coin? And he was like, hey, he's rummaging around. There you go. He's like, I brought this for you. I was like, oh, man, that's fucking awesome. Probably a $5 challenge coin. I was fucking, you can ask Nico. Like, if you catch Nico in the chat, asking him about the time. Like, I was distraught. I was upset. That was the most important thing that I had from the show. Was this little knick-knacky shit that fucking Tom Mayo gave me. Great, great dude. So, guys, I'm going to get off of here. I'm going to get into the giggle grass. If you follow me on my gaming channel, Crazy Sharp Games, there's a chance I might be on there. Todd's here. Hi, Todd. Tom Mayo. See, you're wrong. Because a BLT is bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Tomato, not mayo. Oh, Jesus Christ, I fucked that up. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you guys hopefully on Monday. Hopefully on Monday. And if you can find one of these, I absolutely recommend it. Absolutely recommend it. This is a great, great knife. This is that Bastinelli, what is it? Bastinelli Acheron La Sanction. Great, great self-defense tool. So, later, guys. I'm out. I will talk to you later. Wait, I'll give you something on the way out. Here's something on the way out. I went to all the trouble of making it. You guys may as well enjoy it.
Hey y'all, anybody got any quarters? Check it out. I can't make the horse work. I ain't got no change.
I give up.
I did it for you. Guys, I'm out. I love y'all. Take it easy. That was hard to do. I'm not gonna lie. PDM, that was me, and me all in one video. Took way longer than it should have for 30 seconds. It's 26 seconds. Took way too long to make that 26 seconds worth of fucking content. I'm out, guys. I love you all. See you probably on Monday. There may be a members live feed this weekend sometime. Depends on how much shit I get done. I got some filming to do. I got some friends that are coming over, and I have to go to a funeral. So, yeah. I didn't tell you guys about that. We'll talk about that some other time. Later.